This video is to warn people about practices with some VA subcontractor um, comp and pension raiders. Um, they're undercover. The VA does not normally use undercover raiders, but because of the system that's in place, those jobs can be set aside for people. Um, Generally, these raiders, you cannot get a direct hire job. They hire from within, from people that are already involved in veteran services within the VA, within VBA. Um, with that being said, there's the wink wink system where jobs are set aside for people. And these particular raiders, generally are connected to, well, something seems to be going on with the camera here. Huh. Huh. Somebody appears to be messing with the camera. Somebody just hacked into my camera. But hopefully people can see better than I can in this video. But anyway, they will base their opinion not off the evidence at hand, not off the treatment records of the veteran, off diagnostic criteria, off tests and measurements and such. They'll base it more off their gut or off their opinion. That's not medicine, but it's the direction people are going, especially if you're in an area with a lot of instigators, people that weaponize agencies. It could be people involved in some kind of racial extremist groups. We have a lot in mid-Michigan, uh, a lot of groups that target people based on race. Um, and you also have people that target people based on their religion here. This is like this area is like 1950s. Only some things are reversed. There's a lot of reverse discrimination, a lot of it, and then you'll also find there's a lot of discrimination based on religion around here. I mean, it's crazy. And then there's also discrimination based on how you fall on the QAnon, your your opinion about them, and the Trump card. Um, so there's just a lot of targeting here, and this can affect, if you're going to be targeted by them, because normally the VA doesn't send people to watch you on a bus or at Walmart shopping, stuff like that. Um, that's not how it's done. Um, if it is, it's targeting. That's the kind of stuff they do in court cases, you know. But even the VA doesn't generally do it. They look at the evidence at hand. If your doctor says probably shouldn't be carrying a bag of groceries and you're carrying a bag of groceries, of course they're going to consider it. But then again, they have to also consider your resources. And sometimes this stuff will go to trial and it'll end up on appeal. And they'll say, why were you carrying a bag of groceries? And then you'll say, well, because the VA doesn't give me resources to not carry them. The VA, refuses to pay any comp. The VA refuses to give me, special equipment. That kind of stuff will come up at trial. But anyway, so, keep taking care of your family, and just if somebody sees you lurking around, you record them. That way the time comes when you go to court, or just remember their face, or, keep in mind, though, if these people are involved in targeting, um, they're not going to use their real name. And the person that signs the piece of paper, this is what I've seen, the person that signs the piece of paper may not even be the person that's there. I've had videos about that. People, borrowing people's badges and they cover the picture with envelope labels. Let's see what other stuff. They'll put a plastic PVC name tag on the top, but the ID card is flipped around. Oh, what other kind of stuff have I seen? I've seen stuff. What other kind of stuff have I seen? Or people not wearing a badge at all, uh, which is supposed to be reported, but then again, some VAs in mid Michigan, they don't care. You're not supposed to be wandering around any federal facility if you're staff without an ID card on. But anyway, oh, then you have homemade PVC IDs too. Can't forget those. The VA doesn't make those. Those, those are subcontractor IDs, and you got to be careful because some VAs they don't even check those. They're fraudulent. Yeah, the VA does not pass any of my tests from my experience and my background for security. Not at all. And you can't blame the VA police. They're only every VA police department is only budgeted with a specific amount of money for a specific amount of officers for a specific amount of time. You can't blame the VA police. You blame the staff and the administration. So that being said, if these undercover raiders touch your case, don't expect a good disposition. You'll probably end up in court. Uh, it may or may not be because you're being targeted. The system that the VA has set in place for comp and pension always benefits them. It benefits their giant thousand, attorney law firm more than it benefits us. And I mean, when you think about it, I've made videos about this before. It's absolutely ridiculous to have several thousand attorneys nationwide in a giant law firm just the purpose to deny you a 10 or 20% rating. No, actually 10 to 30%, the vast majority. Just to deny you, which is what, 700? No. Yeah, it's like $500 to $700 to have their a couple thousand member law firm deny you $500 to $700 a month while they're getting paid thousands a month. Plus, they get a fat federal retirement. Makes no sense at all. Oh yeah, and for people to can't forget how people they will weaponize the system to ration your medical care. Now I've seen some improvements to Saginaw VA, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna take it with a grain of salt, um, and move forward very slowly before I give any positive, opinion about them, or I start referring people there. I may only have a few people who watch the videos, but like I said, I'm sure there's at least a couple people I'm helping. Now I know that there's a couple of people who've subscribed to me that are here just to make trouble. And some of you are connected to groups that support racism, and some of you groups that, whether white or black, and some of them are connected to groups that like to bully other Christians, um, or publicly, argue with them or humiliate them in public. Um, Sooner or later, I'll find a way to block you from my channel because this is a channel to use everything that I've experienced in my training, everything I've experienced in the military and as a contractor, and everything that I've learned from several graduate degrees to help people, especially veterans, especially the poor, especially those who are held captive, whether it's human trafficking or financial targeting, it's still captivity. And those who are being targeted by political or by racist or extremist groups, this is to help. This is to help them. That's what the knight does. That's what the paladin does. And so, if you're here for bad reasons, I believe the Holy Spirit will work on you either one, to make you into a better person, or two, to humble you so you truly submit yourself to repentance and to change and to better yourself. Or three, you'll be shamed. Some people, they have hard hearts and hard heads. Shaming is the only way to change them. No, people aren't perfect, but when people willfully choose to do evil to others, or they don't try to improve their character, or they don't try to find help that they need, well, then they may be shamed. Of course, keeping in mind, people mess up, and people have low periods, and sometimes people do things to people that set people back, even when they've, gained so much. All of these things, of course, you take them into account, and so does God. Some people think they're experts on Scripture, but they don't realize how big of a stumbling block they're making to the gospel. They shame the gospel. And when it comes to race, I am so tired of racists. I am so tired of it, really. I've traveled the world. I've worked with all backgrounds of people in the military, as a civilian, as a contractor, and I've never seen racism like I have till I came back to my own home. And honestly, I am tired of it. It is rampant. And some people in mid Michigan, they don't care. They don't care that their, communities appear racist. They don't care about unity. Unity is a political power word. I'm sick of dealing with it. Really sick of dealing with people like that, and people who have no compassion or want to listen to somebody's narrative, to consider them as, their ideas, and to treat them with respect. Um, I'm just tired of dealing with people like that. How very tired of it. And then people that want to load their conversations, I'm tired of that too. People that come up to you and the first comments they make to you are something politically or religiously charged. I'm tired of that. Those are instigators. Or people that will, open up in public about some hot topic, some very conflict ridden topic, just bring it up in public. Tired of people like that too. More instigators. But yeah, no more conversation. It may include hot button topics. Generally, they're introduced slowly, or they just come up. When people just blurt them out, it's that's an instigator, and I'm tired of dealing with people like that. But anyway, back to the Raiders. So yeah, just be cautious, and try to remember faces and names, and maybe even get video and pictures if you think that somebody is doing this kind of thing, because it's never good. They're trying to set you up. If it doesn't matter, scientifically, if somebody is doing something like carrying that bag of groceries to the big box store or out of it, actually, it would probably be out of it, but it doesn't matter, because sometimes resources don't allow people to exactly follow what their doctor recommends. And usually these are financial constraints. Financial constraints will reduce and even eliminate resources. And so, in the end, in a court case, an attorney is going to say, the veteran isn't the problem here. The VA is not taking good care of them. That's the problem. But this guy isn't supposed to be carrying groceries. Why isn't the VA trying to help this veteran get resources to someone to carry the groceries for them? Or, the better for a veteran trained to be independent and resilient is them to have the resources to get a cart or a power chair or something like that. So we know the power chairs are arbitrary. I've experienced that. I'll testify to that in court. Very arbitrary. Whereas if you go to Medicaid, it seems to be more time consuming, but easier to get one through Medicaid than through the VA, which is ridiculous. And then I found also that it appears that the VA, if you give only one or two people the power over who gets a chair, that's very arbitrary. And their standards, they're not published. It's not something that you can, uh, like I said, I prepared a case for mine and it was denied, but then she gave it to somebody who has less issues than me. And we see this guy, he's destroying the cart. He carries it. If you can carry your power chair, you don't need one. So that being said, this is a problem, internally with the VA, specifically with the VA in this area. But as far as the Raiders, yeah, this underhanded type stuff is not scientific. It's not evidence based medicine. It is targeting and it's just destructive. So just be careful and, and keep whatever evidence you have. If they decide to try to turn something against you, so that you can give it to your attorney. And yeah, the time comes if you're being targeted, you should probably get an attorney, which is why I recommended in another video to have a nest egg. If you don't, I don't know what to say. Then you're being put in a situation exactly like my family is. You'll be financially captive. And once you're financially captive, people that are against you in the community, whether it be groups organizing against you, or maybe a few people that are adept at social media, then you're in exactly the situation we're in, my family. And I don't know what to say except to try to keep your wits, get a CPL to protect your family and try to, budget as much as you can and try to create a bubble to protect your children. Because believe it or not, people will even target your children. People target my daughters all the time, and, and two of them aren't even in the states. Um, QAnon is worldwide, folks. So are some of these racist, religious extremist groups. They're also global, and some of them are very destructive. And some of them now I've identified they're trying to send people to Southeast Asia to retire, try to retire, and some of them encouraging them to start YouTube channels. But these people, all they do is spread racial tension. Um, they radicalize people, generally cult type thinking. It's very destructive. And these these instigator type of people, they may try to mess with you wherever you are, even mess with your claim, and even mess with your the process of C&P. Like calling you in for checkups a couple of times a year. More than the yearly or bi-yearly review. All kinds of stuff to sabotage you, and it's pretty bad. This is not the way our country was founded. This is not the way the rating system is supposed to work. It's weaponizing, and that's you know, in my experience, I've found QAnoners and some racially charged groups that They weaponize everything. And some of them, they find it funny. These are very sick individuals, very sick. And some of them will use race baiting to try to turn things on you. Others, they won't use race baiting. They'll go to other things like you're religiously weird or you're mentally, oh, maybe you have some kind of mental illness. That's how they'll weaponize. But don't let them mess with your rating. Document everything and find a way to get an attorney. And if you're financially captive like us, the only thing I could say is network. You know, try to find other veterans who are also similar situation. They're being held financially captive, by it's coordinated, When you think about it, certain groups, if you have a VA that's heavy with contractors, they're all going to be from the community. And if you're part of like a HUD-VASH thing, well, these social workers, some of them used to work with MDHHS or with private organizations as social workers before they went to the VA. So again, there's community connections. We're all connected, and you don't have to be crazy to see that if you sit down and you really think about it. Especially in a small city, everybody knows everybody, and then there's always word of mouth. So hopefully, people watching, you're not financially captive like us, because it's like a tornado comes through your life, and then you try your best to make a bubble to protect your children, but when things are weaponized in the disability system, it's very difficult to keep that bubble intact. So I suggest that you keep a tally on the damages that your family has received, like we do. And someday, in God's plan, maybe at some point, you and your family will get payment for the damages you've suffered, and the humiliation will be turned on those who humiliate.